Hi, I'm Margie Holmes, psychologist, author, and educator. This week, we wrap up our discussions on stalking. In this third episode, we'll listen to the stories of those falsely accused of stalking and also talk about recognizing stalker tendencies. Carlos Celdran comments, "This is the Facebook age. Everyone is a stalker." And a lot of you agreed with some saying looking at your crush's Facebook profile is already considered stalking. At Dizzy_Tokyo says, "I agree. We tend to peek at the profiles of people we like or hate just to know what they are up to. And can this be considered stalking or not really?" Ging Bardon says, "Carlos is right. I think in some perverse way, we want to be stalked. It gives us some sense of importance because otherwise we wouldn't be exhibitionists." At D. Ambrosio asks, "What's up with people who complain about being cyberstalked when they publicize all of their social media stuff anyway?" Chad Villarico asks, Is seeking for truth and satisfying your curiosity considered stalking? If it is, then I definitely have stalking tendencies. Thanks for your honesty, Chad. And guess what? UP Professor John Rev Gilaran agrees with you. Most of us stalk from time to time. For me, it's making a connection. When one tries to find out what his or her crush likes, it's a form of stalking in a way, but others call it investigating. But I think it's a way of sizing up a possible mate. Now let's move on from stalking light on FB and go on to the more unpleasant stuff or topic of being accused of stalking. Carlos Gonzalez shares, "I was accused of being a stalker back in college by a gay person with a sharp tongue who was trying to ruin me. He wanted to cover up his faults after I accidentally found out what he'd been writing online about my classmates. And his classmates didn't even bother to hear my side of the story. I didn't care about them enough to make an effort. I think that was a very good way to look at it, Carlos." Ferdis De O shares, "A decade ago, I became friends with a woman who was in a relationship with a lesbian. After they broke up, my friend dated another lesbian. When the new girl found out I was still in contact with my friend's ex-girlfriend, she started stalking me. She stalked my social media accounts, so I shut them down. Things escalated until one day, I received a summons from the barangay with false accusations like violence against women and children, and also harassment. My colleagues at work started to look at me like I'm a criminal. Thank God the barangay dismissed the case. I felt friendless, so I turned to my blog to express myself. My blog didn't contain defamatory remarks, so I was shocked when I got a summons for libel. My performance at work dipped and my life became a mess. I got a lawyer and got the charges dismissed. I learned the reason why they knew so much about me because I was stalked and my records dug up." So can you imagine? He was accused of stalking when actually he was the one stalked. And I think the fact that this happened a decade ago and you found it important enough to still talk about it means that being accused can be a pretty traumatic experience. Francis Benjamin Estuche shares, "A friend of mine was accused of stalking. He worked in the same street as a nurse and also lived a block away from her. On his way to work, he gave the girl a lift. It became a regular morning schedule and they became casual friends. 2 weeks later, the girl started driving to her own workplace. She told her fellow nurse, my friend was stalking her. My friend was puzzled. One thing led to another and a TRO was issued." That's a temporary restraining order for those who didn't know what it was. Now, this is a case of how stalking was oversimplified. The court should establish malicious intent and actual invasion of privacy. I also asked, do you worry that you are or have ever been a stalker? What are the signs? Here's what you said. Joseph Elas, "I know for a fact na stalker ako and that's something na di ko kinababahala. Di naman umaabot sa point na nakakaharas na yung act. Di naman ako obsessed. Ninja moves lang kung gusto mo mag-stalk." Here's an email from Anonymous who confesses that she still stalks her boyfriend's ex. She shares, I'm a female, happy and content in my 6-month relationship with my male partner, Aries. But I don't know why I keep stalking this girl, Mira, who my current boyfriend courted before. I felt like a backup plan. I thought if things went well with Mira and Aris, the love story I am living now would remain in my dreams. Before I said yes to Aris, I confronted him with this, that he might choose her again over me. My security reached its peak when Mira showed signs she actually felt something for Aris. She blocked me and Aris on social media. He assured me that he's already over Mira. Ako na lang ata hindi makamove on. So, I still stalked Mira. I visited her social media sites to see what she was up to. I think I wanted to know her better in order to know why Aris chose her over me. I want to stop stalking and prove to myself and Aris that I trust him, but I always end up still stalking her. But you know what? It is a good sign that you know what you're doing and that you are slightly embarrassed or actually embarrassed about your doing and want to stop doing it. And this shows that, you know, you're on your way to getting better if you persevere. Okay? At the Ambrosio asks, what's up with people who complain about being cyberstalked when they publicized all their social media stuff anyway? I know I said that before, but it's really important. So in other words, don't cry or complain about being stalked when you yourself seem to be inviting it. Now, we have one viewer who wants to know, how do I stop? At Joshua Aaron says, I'm still stalking someone on FB and I really want to stop. It's killing me every time I read something about him being happy. Now, Joshua and everybody else, if one has tried to stop stalking and has failed several times, it's a hint that what you are doing can actually be considered obsessive-compulsive disorder. Now, studies have shown that medication helps in such a case with such a disorder, but at most medication helps only 15% of the time. Actually, what therapists have found most successful and most promising is therapy via neuroscientific training. I will share with you about neuroscientific training if I get not just 1 or 2 requests, but a clamor for such an episode. The reason is, talking about this is a wee bit theoretical, and thus it makes kind of difficult. It makes it kind of difficult to make good TV, but we'll try to do it if you're sure that you really want it, okay? Now, next week, we'll do something similar to what we did today. All these things we think normal people would never do, and yet, maybe sometimes we have actually considered doing them or we're frightened that we've actually done them. Or maybe a question to ask ourselves is, what would push us to do something we had never considered doing before? And next week, we will talk about actually being part of a sex video. Well, that's it for today. Send me your comments, questions, and suggestions for future episodes on Facebook. Tweet using the hashtag AskMargie or send an email to askmargie@rappler.com. See you next week.